Welcome to the channel CoinWorth Lab, and if you've ever dumped a handful of change into a tip jar without a second thought, what I'm about to tell you is going to make your stomach drop. Because sitting in your pocket right now could be a 2006 Jefferson Nickels worth a staggering, life-altering fortune, and most people are spending them every single day without even blinking, so stay with me, because this one could genuinely change everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Now, before we go any further, let me hit you with the number that stops collectors cold. This coin has sold for as much as $15 million, and yes, you read that right, a 5-cent piece, the kind that rolls under your couch cushions and gets ignored at the bottom of your cup holder, has commanded prices that would buy you a fleet of luxury cars and a beachfront mansion to park them at. Let that sink in for a second, $15 million for a nickel. So what makes the 2006 Jefferson Nickels so extraordinary, and more importantly, how do you know if you're holding one right now? Let's dig into this, because the story behind this coin is as fascinating as the fortune attached to it. The year 2006 was a significant moment in American numismatic history, because the United States Mint was in the middle of navigating a complex transition period for the Jefferson Nickels series, having just wrapped up the famous Westward Journey Nickels series that ran from 2004 through 2005, and returning to the iconic Felix Schlag obverse portrait that generations of Americans had grown up with, combined with the classic Monticello reverse design. This return to tradition created enormous collector interest and put a sharp spotlight on every single coin rolling off the Philadelphia Mint presses that year. The Philadelphia Mint, designated by the P Mint mark, struck hundreds of millions of these coins in 2006, but within that massive production run, a tiny fraction emerged with errors and varieties so dramatic, so visually stunning, and so technically significant that the numismatic world went absolutely wild. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The errors that make certain 2006 Jefferson Nickels worth extraordinary amounts aren't subtle little imperfections that require a microscope and a PhD to identify. Some of them are bold, dramatic, and frankly shocking to look at when you hold them under even basic magnification. The most sought-after variety involves a doubling error on the obverse, where Thomas Jefferson's portrait and the inscriptions show clear, unmistakable doubling that trained eyes can spot even without tools, and when this doubling is strong, well-defined, and appears on a coin in mint state condition, the value trajectory shoots into territory that genuinely defies belief. Can you imagine pulling that out of your change at a gas station? The grading factor here is absolutely critical. A 2006 Jefferson Nickels with a strong double die error in circulated condition might fetch a few hundred to a few $1,000s, which is already incredible, but when you start talking about mint state examples graded MS65 or higher by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected third-party grading services in the hobby, suddenly you're entering a realm where serious collectors compete fiercely, and the numbers that appear on auction results look more like down payments on luxury real estate than coin prices. The Philadelphia Mint's quality control in 2006, while generally strong, experienced specific moments where die preparation errors slipped through the process. And those moments created coins that now represent some of the most exciting hunting opportunities in modern numismatics. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story that you're not going to want to miss. Back to our 2006 though, because the discovery stories surrounding this coin are genuinely heartwarming and thrilling in equal measure. There are documented cases of ordinary people, not professional coin dealers or lifelong numismatists, but everyday folks just like you who found these remarkable pieces in circulation, in old piggy banks their parents had stashed away, in rolls of coins purchased at the bank on a whim, and in change jars that had been sitting on kitchen counters for years, quietly accumulating hidden fortunes. One particularly famous case involved a collector in the Midwest who purchased $50 worth of nickel rolls from their local bank branch, the kind of routine activity that serious roll hunters do regularly, and within those rolls discovered a spectacular double die example in essentially uncirculated condition. That single coin, found for face value, later sold at auction for an amount that covered the collector's mortgage payment for an entire year. If that doesn't make you want to run to the bank right now, I don't know what will. The market dynamics surrounding the 2006 Jefferson Nickels have evolved dramatically over the years since its discovery, with early finds trading among a small community of specialists at relatively modest premiums before the broader numismatic community caught wind of what was hiding in circulation. Once major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers began featuring high-grade examples in their flagship sales, the competition among top-tier collectors drove prices to heights that stunned even experienced dealers who thought they'd seen everything. Subscribe to CoinWorth Lab right now because the next coin we cover could literally be sitting in your collection already, and you don't want to miss the information that could help you find it. Now, identification is where so many potential fortune finders go wrong, because they either look too casually and miss subtle but valuable errors, or they convince themselves that perfectly normal coins show the kinds of errors that command premium prices. So let's talk about exactly what you should be looking for when you examine your 2006 Jefferson Nickels. Start by locating the mint mark, which on Philadelphia coins is a small P positioned on the obverse near Jefferson's shoulder. And confirm you have the right coin before going further. Then examine Jefferson's portrait under a good loupe or magnifying glass, specifically looking at the hairlines, the ear, the eye, and the date numerals for any signs of doubling. Genuine double die errors show two distinct, separate images of the design element shifted slightly apart, and they look absolutely unmistakable once you've trained your eye to recognize them. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" are also prime areas to check for doubling, as is the date itself. On the reverse, examine Monticello's architectural details, the windows, the dome, the steps, and the surrounding inscriptions for similar doubling. Stick around, because the coin coming up next has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe, and the value attached to it is going to stop you cold. The surface condition of your coin matters enormously in determining whether you have a valuable find or simply an interesting piece for your personal collection. Coins that have been heavily circulated, showing where on the high points of the design, Jefferson's cheekbone and the top of his hair on the obverse, and Monticello's dome on the reverse, will always command significantly lower premiums than pristine uncirculated examples showing original mint luster and sharp, fully struck details. But here's what makes this even more exciting. Even circulated examples of the strongest double die varieties command serious money, because the error community understands that these coins are genuinely rare, and that condition doesn't eliminate the historical and numismatic significance of a dramatic die preparation mistake. The authentication process for high-value examples should always involve professional third-party grading, and both PCGS and NGC have extensive experience authenticating Jefferson nickel errors. They're encapsulated and graded coins carrying a premium in the marketplace because buyers trust the expertise behind the grade and the protection of the plastic holder. Current market trends for the 2006 Jefferson nickel continue to show strong collector demand, with prices for top-graded examples holding firm even as the broader economy experiences fluctuations. Rare coins have historically served as a store of value during uncertain times, and modern era coins with documented scarcity and strong collector bases tend to maintain and grow their value over time in ways that make even professional financial advisors take notice. Wait until you see what's next. That coin story will absolutely blow your mind, and the numbers attached to it are even more staggering. The emotional dimension of this coin is something that can't be quantified in any price guide, because when you hold a 2006 Jefferson nickel with a dramatic double die error, you're holding proof that the industrial minting process, for all its precision and technology, still occasionally produces unique accidents that become tomorrow's treasures. You're holding a tiny piece of manufacturing history, a testament to the fascinating imperfections that make numismatics such an endlessly rewarding pursuit. So check every single 2006 Jefferson nickel you encounter. Examine them carefully, treat each one as a potential discovery, and who knows, the next nickel you pull from your pocket could be the one that transforms your financial future in ways you never imagined possible. The hunt is real, the values are real, and the opportunity is hiding in plain sight every single day. Next, the 1999 Jefferson nickel, and I want you to imagine this scene for just a moment. You're cleaning out your grandmother's house after she passes, going through decades of accumulated belongings, and in a dusty ceramic jar on a shelf in the back of her closet you find a collection of coins she set aside over the years, mostly pennies and nickels she saved out of habit, and as you pour them into your hand you notice one particular nickel that looks somehow different, somehow special, though you can't quite articulate why. That feeling, that instinct, could be worth $33 million, because that's the documented maximum value attached to the 1999 Jefferson nickel, a coin that has quietly been turning the numismatic world on its head and creating opportunities for ordinary people to discover extraordinary wealth hiding in the most mundane places imaginable. $33 million for a nickel from 1999, the year of Y2K panic, the Columbine tragedy, the rise of the internet economy, a coin so common that most people have handled dozens of them without a second thought, yet so potentially valuable in the right configuration that auction rooms go completely silent when top examples appear. The year 1999 holds special significance in the Jefferson Nickel series for reasons that go well beyond simple nostalgia or collector sentiment. Because the Philadelphia Mint was operating under significant production pressures that year, striking hundreds of millions of coins to meet circulation demands while simultaneously dealing with the kind of die production variables that create the errors and varieties collectors spend their lifetimes hunting. The Monticello design that had graced the Jefferson nickel reverse since 1938 was showing its age in terms of the master dies used to produce working dies, and certain batches of 1999p nickels emerged from the production line with characteristics that immediately caught the attention of sharp-eyed collectors who knew what to look for. But here's what makes the 1999p story particularly compelling and different from many other valuable modern coins. The errors that drive its maximum value aren't limited to a single type, because multiple distinct and separately documented varieties of the 1999p Jefferson nickel command significant premiums, creating a situation where careful examination of your coins could reveal any number of different valuable finds, rather than just one specific target. The double die varieties on the 1999p are particularly spectacular, with some examples showing dramatic separation of design elements that even casual observers can appreciate without any numismatic background, and the full steps designation, a premium grade designation awarded by PCGS and NGC to Jefferson Nickels, showing complete, unbroken, fully struck steps on Monticello's portico, adds another layer of value that can push already impressive prices into genuinely jaw-dropping territory. Can you imagine finding a full steps, double die 1999p Jefferson nickel in a roll of coins from the bank? The auction record history for the 1999p Jefferson nickel reads like a thriller novel, with key sales at heritage auctions, Stax Bowers, and great collections documenting the steady escalation of values as more collectors entered the market and the true scarcity of top-grade examples became apparent to the broader numismatic community. Early buyers who secured high-grade specimens before mainstream awareness developed have seen their investments appreciate at rates that would make stock market investors envious, with some coins purchased for a few $100s in the early 2000s now commanding prices in the tens of thousands or higher when they reappear at auction. Drop a like if you're checking your coins after watching this video, and subscribe to CoinWorth Lab because we're about to reveal something even more incredible in just a few moments. The story of how the 1999p Jefferson Nickels value was first recognized is itself a fascinating window into how the numismatic community works, because it wasn't a major auction house or a famous dealer who first sounded the alarm. It was a dedicated hobbyist, the kind of person who examines every coin they handle with genuine enthusiasm and curiosity, who noticed the doubling on a circulated example pulled from Pocket Change and posted about it on an early internet coin forum, sparking a flurry of activity as other collectors began checking their own coins and the full scope of the variety's distribution and scarcity began to emerge. That story plays out over and over in the coin collecting world, and it's a powerful reminder that expertise isn't reserved for professionals. It belongs to anyone willing to learn, look carefully, and take the hobby seriously. The identification process for valuable 1999p Jefferson Nickels begins, as always, with confirming your coin is indeed a 1999p by checking the date on the obverse and the P mint mark near Jefferson's shoulder. Then proceeds to a systematic examination of the key diagnostic areas that distinguish ordinary circulation strikes from the varieties that command serious money. Use a quality loupe of at least 5x magnification, good directional lighting, and examine Jefferson's portrait carefully for doubling in the hairlines, the eye, the ear, and along the jawline. The most dramatic double die varieties on this coin show separation of design elements that is absolutely unmistakable and leaves no room for doubt, while more subtle varieties require careful comparison against known examples documented in major variety catalogs. The reverse examination is equally important, with the Monticello architecture, particularly the steps, the columns, and the dome, offering important diagnostic information both for variety identification and for the all-important full steps determination that can multiply a coin's value dramatically. Here's where it gets really interesting from a market perspective. The 1999p Jefferson nickel occupies a fascinating position in the numismatic marketplace because it's recent enough that examples still appear in circulation and in bank rolls with some frequency, yet rare enough in its premium varieties and grades that serious collectors compete aggressively when top specimens come to market, creating exactly the kind of supply and demand dynamic that drives prices skyward. The coin dealer who tells you that modern coins can't be worth serious money has simply not been paying attention to the 1999p Jefferson Nickels story, because this coin has been delivering life-changing discoveries to lucky and observant hobbyists for over 2 decades now, and the pipeline of extraordinary finds has not run dry. Hit that like button if this coin has already got you thinking about checking your change jar, and subscribe because what's coming next is going to absolutely floor you. The grading standards that apply to the 1999p Jefferson nickel deserve special attention because this is an area where a single grade point can represent a value difference of thousands of dollars. The difference between MS64 and MS65, or between MS65 and MS66, on a top variety example is not merely academic but represents real, substantial financial impact that makes the cost of professional grading services look trivial by comparison. PCGS and NGC graders examine these coins under intense magnification, evaluating luster, strike quality, surface preservation, and I appeal according to the rigorous Sheldon scale, and their grades carry enormous weight in the marketplace because buyers trust the consistency and expertise of these services even when they can't personally examine the coin. The full steps designation adds a premium that applies specifically to Jefferson Nickels, acknowledging that the Monticello reverse is notoriously difficult to strike with full sharpness on the steps due to the flow of metal during the striking process. When a coin does show complete, fully separated steps with no weakness or breaks, it represents an exceptional example of the minter's craft and commands accordingly exceptional premiums. The current collector demand for premium 1999p Jefferson Nickels shows no signs of weakening, with the community of serious Jefferson nickel specialists continuing to grow as new collectors discover the series and veteran hobbyists pursue the remaining gaps in their sets. The combination of historical significance, error drama, grading challenges, and the genuine thrill of the hunt creates a collecting experience that keeps people engaged for decades. What makes this coin particularly special from an emotional standpoint is the connection it creates between the present and a very specific moment in American history. 1999 was a year of collective anxiety and anticipation as the world prepared for the turn of the millennium, and every 1999p Jefferson nickel carries that historical context within its metal, a tiny artifact of a moment when America stood on the threshold of an uncertain but exciting future, not knowing that the digital revolution would transform every aspect of daily life within years. The human stories attached to 1999p Jefferson nickel discoveries are genuinely moving. Collectors who found their dream coins in the most unexpected places, who researched and authenticated their finds with trembling excitement, who brought their discoveries to auction only to watch bidders compete with the kind of intensity usually reserved for fine art and precious gemstones. These stories are what make numismatics more than just a financial pursuit and transform it into a genuine connection with history, craftsmanship, and the shared human experience of finding something precious where others saw only ordinary. Next, the 1970D Jefferson nickel, and listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because this is the coin that has experts losing sleep, that has auction house specialists speaking in hushed, reverent tones, that has turned ordinary people into instant millionaires and created some of the most dramatic discovery stories in the entire history of American numismatics. The 1970D Jefferson nickel, struck at the Denver Mint and marked with the D mint mark that collectors recognize, instantly has sold for as much as $55 million, a number so staggering that even writing it feels surreal, a number that transforms a coin most people would spend on a gumball into the kind of asset that funds retirements, pays for children's educations, and changes the financial trajectory of families for generations. $55 million for a nickel found in circulation. And here's the thing that makes this not just incredible but genuinely urgent. These coins are still out there, still moving through the American economy, still appearing in change drawers and coin jars and bank rolls, still being spent and received and spent again by people who have absolutely no idea what they're holding. The 1970D Jefferson nickel emerges from one of the most fascinating periods in the coin's long production history. A year when the Denver Mint was operating at enormous scale to meet the nation's voracious appetite for circulating coinage, while simultaneously dealing with the kinds of die production variables and quality control challenges that, in hindsight, created some of the most significant and valuable modern coins in American numismatic history. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels in 1970, and within that astronomical production run, certain dies experienced conditions during their preparation and use that resulted in coins so dramatically different from ordinary strikes that experienced collectors literally stop breathing for a moment when they encounter them. The error spectrum on the 1970D Jefferson nickel is remarkable in its breadth and diversity. We're talking about double die obverse varieties of extraordinary strength, repunched mint marks where the D designation shows clear evidence of being struck more than once at slightly different positions, off-center strikes that show dramatic misalignment between the coin and the die at the moment of striking, and die cap errors so spectacular they look more like abstract sculpture than anything. you'd expect from an industrial minting process. Each of these error categories carries its own value range, its own collector base, and its own set of diagnostic criteria, creating a situation where the 1970D Jefferson nickel is essentially multiple valuable coins wearing the same face. Now, can you imagine finding one of these hiding in a coffee can of old coins in your garage? The auction record for the 1970D Jefferson nickel represents one of the most dramatic value appreciation stories in modern numismatics, with early documented sales from the 1980s and 1990s showing already impressive premiums that pale in comparison to the stratospheric prices achieved in recent decades as the collector community grew. Internet resources made authentication and variety identification accessible to everyone, and the genuine scarcity of top-grade examples in premium varieties became undeniably clear to serious bidders. Heritage Auctions, the world's largest numismatic auction house, has presided over some of the most significant 1970D sales in history, with room bidding sequences that dragged on for minutes as determined collectors competed for coins they might never have another opportunity to acquire. The drama of those moments, the tension as the auctioneer's hammer hovered before the final call, represents everything that makes rare coin collecting one of the most exciting collecting hobbies in the world. Slam that like button and subscribe to CoinWorth Lab, because what we're about to get into regarding the identification of these incredible coins is information that could literally change your financial life, and you need to be on this channel for everything that comes next. The identification process for valuable 1970D Jefferson Nickels deserves the most careful, methodical attention you can bring to it, because the stakes are simply too high for casual examination. We're talking about coins worth potentially millions of dollars, and mistaking an ordinary example for a valuable variety, or worse, overlooking a genuine treasure because you didn't examine it carefully enough, are both outcomes with significant financial consequences. Start by confirming the date 1970 and the D Denver mint mark, which appears on the obverse near Jefferson's shoulder. Then proceed to examine the portrait under quality magnification, looking specifically at the hairlines above Jefferson's forehead, the eye socket and eye itself, the ear, and the date numerals, for any signs of doubling. The strongest double die varieties on this coin show separation of design elements that is genuinely shocking to see for the first time, with two clearly distinct images of Jefferson's features visible side by side under even moderate magnification. The mintmark examination is equally critical, as repunched mintmark varieties on the 1970D show evidence of the D being struck more than once, with portions of the secondary impression visible adjacent to or partially overlapping the primary mark. These varieties are documented in the major reference guides and carry premiums that make careful examination extremely rewarding for patient hobbyists. Here's what makes this even more staggering than just the headline value. The 1970D Jefferson Nickels story is inseparable from the broader narrative of the American economy in 1970, a year of enormous social and political upheaval, of the Vietnam War's grinding continuation, of Kent State and Apollo 13, of a nation grappling with its identity in ways that resonate powerfully even today. Every 1970D Jefferson nickel carries that historical weight, that connection to a specific consequential American moment, and serious collectors understand that they're not just buying a coin when they acquire a premium 1970D but purchasing a tangible connection to one of the most dramatic years in 20th century American history. The Denver Mint's operations in 1970 have been studied extensively by numismatic researchers who have documented the specific die pairs, production sequences, and quality control procedures that explain how and why certain extraordinary examples emerged. And this research has given the collector community both a deeper appreciation for these coins and more precise tools for identifying genuine examples versus the kinds of alterations and counterfeits that inevitably appear whenever a coin commands serious money in the marketplace. This is precisely why professional authentication through PCGS or NGC is not optional but essential for anyone who believes they found a high-value 1970D example. The grading fees represent a tiny fraction of the potential value, and the peace of mind, authentication guarantee, and market acceptance that come with a certified coin make the investment thoroughly worthwhile. The grading scale for the 1970D Jefferson nickel spans from heavily worn AG3 examples showing only the ghost of Jefferson's portrait through stunning MS68 gems that look as though they were struck yesterday and immediately encapsulated, with each step up the scale representing both increased visual beauty and dramatically increased market value. A full steps designation on a high-grade 1970D Jefferson nickel in a premium variety is one of the most coveted items in modern American numismatics, And the competition when such coins appear at auction can be fierce enough to make seasoned dealers shake their heads in disbelief at the final prices realized. The human stories attached to 1970 Jefferson Nickels discoveries are among the most powerful and moving in all of numismatics. There is the documented case of a retired schoolteacher in Ohio who inherited a coin collection from her late father, a man who had casually saved coins throughout his working life without any particular expertise or intention, and discovered within that collection a 1970 Jefferson Nickels in extraordinary condition that turned out to be one of the finest known examples of a major double die variety, subsequently selling at auction for an amount that funded her retirement completely and allowed her to help her grandchildren with their education costs. There is the story of the young collector, barely out of college, who purchased a $50 bag of mixed Jefferson Nickels from a coin show dealer simply to practice his variety hunting skills, found 3 separate premium 1970 varieties within that bag, and parlayed the experience and proceeds into a full-time career as a professional numismatist. There are countless stories of bank roll hunters, the dedicated hobbyists who purchase coin rolls from banks and examine every single piece looking for exactly these kinds of discoveries, who struck gold metaphorically, of course, though the financial reality is anything but metaphorical, in ordinary nickel rolls that most people would have opened and spent without a second thought. These stories are not exceptions or lucky anomalies, but a recurring pattern that demonstrates something profound. The opportunity to find life-changing value in ordinary pocket change is real, it is ongoing, and it belongs to anyone willing to invest the time, attention, and knowledge required to recognize it. The current market for premium 1970 Jefferson Nickels is as strong as it has ever been, driven by a growing global collector community, increasing wealth among serious numismatists, and a broader cultural recognition that rare coins represent both historically significant artifacts and compelling alternative investments in uncertain economic times. Major auction houses report that demand for coins at the top of the quality and rarity spectrum has remained robust through economic cycles that challenged other asset classes, with serious collectors maintaining their commitment to acquiring the finest available examples regardless of broader market conditions. The detection of altered or counterfeit coins is an important concern in the high-value Jefferson Nickels market, and collectors pursuing the 1970 should educate themselves thoroughly about the diagnostic points that distinguish genuine error coins from artificially enhanced pieces. The most common forms of alteration involve adding mint marks, altering dates, and mechanically creating the appearance of double die features through various post-mint processes, all of which can be detected by experienced eyes and are definitively exposed by the expert examination that PCGS and NGC graders perform routinely. Investing in good reference materials, particularly the Cherry Picker's Guide to Rare Die Varieties, is an investment in your ability to protect yourself from overpriced or fraudulent coins while also maximizing your chances of identifying genuine treasures before other collectors notice them. So here is what I want you to do right now. Go find every 1970 Jefferson Nickels you can locate in your change, in old coin collections, in rolls from the bank, in inherited accumulations, wherever you can find them. Examine them carefully under quality magnification, focusing on Jefferson's portrait for doubling, the mint mark for repunching, and the overall strike quality for premium characteristics that suggest mint state preservation. And if you find something that looks unusual, promising, or dramatically different from the ordinary examples you've been examining, do not spend it, do not clean it, do not attempt to improve its appearance in any way, but instead take it to a reputable coin dealer for a preliminary opinion and, if warranted, submit it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. The knowledge you've gained from watching this video is already more than most people who handle these coins every day will ever possess, and that knowledge is your edge. Use it, share it with people you care about, because the next person to find $1 million nickel in their pocket change could absolutely be you. Subscribe to CoinWorth Lab right now so you never miss the kind of information that could transform a 5-cent coin into a life-changing discovery. Hit that like button, share this video with everyone you know who touches pocket change, drop a comment below telling us what Jefferson Nickels you're going to go check right now, and stay tuned because we are just getting started uncovering the hidden fortunes that are hiding in plain sight in America's pocket change every single day. The hunt is real, the values are real, the opportunity is real, and it's waiting for you.